Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and the media are at it again, trying to destabilise our football club with ridiculous statements that no other football club would get. Absolutely ridiculous, needs calling out. Actually, I think there should be some positivity from yesterday, but as per usual, they've lost the plot and it's all about derailing Manchester United. Not again, you might say. Well, yes again, it is yet again the issue as the media, i.e. this time Sky, decide to turn a Manchester United performance which should have been a win and had many positives into let's try and derail Manchester United and form a wedge between the manager and Marcus Rashford. Unbelievable stuff coming out last night. I mean, I was sat there going, I can't speak. I almost wanted to go live, but I thought I'll sleep on it. Essentially, talking about Marcus Rashford being put on the bench against Crystal Palace and how it's a shitstorm and how it's crazy and how there must have something gone on this week and what's gone on off the pitch this week and what's made Ten Hag and Rashford fall out this week. And I'm sat there just going, what is this world we live in? Player gets put on the bench as part of rotation, comes on for half an hour, doesn't actually do anything, but we're talking about it crazy that he was dropped. Last week, people were saying it was only Barnsley and Southampton. And now suddenly he's dropped prime Messi. He didn't drop anybody. He rotated him. And as for this interview that Ten Hag did, talking about professionalism and looking after yourself off the pitch, I can tell you, it's not Rashford. From very good sources, he wasn't even talking about Rashford. He's talking about somebody else in the first team squad. So, you know, that's the media for you. You got Jamie Redknapp sat there talking about something going off the pitch. Should be bloody sued. I don't see the United Stand talking about that. I don't see other United websites talking about that. But it's fine to sit on mainstream TV on a Saturday night and start insinuating that Rashford's been up to stuff off the pitch and him and Ten Hag have fallen out. On Friday night, on this channel, we ran a poll of who should start against Crystal Palace, Garnacho or Rashford. It was basically 50-50. So the manager goes with Garnacho and suddenly it's shock of the century. How can it be shock of the century when most people were like, well, Rashford scored 3 in the last 2, but so's Garnacho, and he's got more assists. You know, there was a case to start Garnacho over Rashford anyway. Ten Hag called it rotation. We've got competition for a place. And to be fair, Rashford didn't do anything when he came on. He came on for half an hour. So I would say Ten Hag actually got it right. And to have these prats talking about, oh, why did he drop him? His confidence was high and now it's low. Well, I don't see Garnacho coming off the bench and doing sod all when he came on last week. You know, you know, when he got the Southampton player sent off. Like, Rashford had half an hour. I don't think Marcus Rashford will even be that, you know, he's going to be disappointed that he got dropped. But my major point here is that I think a lot of people try and inflict toxicity and negativity onto fan opinion. I didn't see anybody last night trying to make a story out of Rashford being dropped. I saw the mainstream trying to do it. Basically what they want to do is, Man United didn't lose, so they can't go in as on that. So they've got to find something else. They've got to find another way to derail Manchester United and speak about them. So let's create another fallout between Ten Hag and Rashford, which clearly just isn't there. Of course, Marcus Rashford's not going to be happy that he's not starting, but I seem to recall Pep Guardiola doesn't always pick Phil Foden. Do you think Phil Foden's happy there on a Saturday morning when Pep says, you're on the bench, I'm starting Bernardo Silva? High five, Pep. I'm absolutely happy about that. I'm over the moon. Of course Rashford's not happy. Who gives a shit? Of course Phil Foden's not happy. Who gives a shit? We've got a manager. We're Manchester United. I actually quite like the rotation. I quite like the idea that when we play Spurs next weekend, might be Garnacho on the bench, might be Ahmad on the bench, you know, might be Rashford on the bench. We need this type of rotation. We need this type of fighting for the shirt. Like, ultimately, I thought over the last few games, I'm just going to say it. I think that whenever I hear United fans criticise Rashford, it's because he's not played well factually in a Man United shirt. What's wrong with that? Your priority is probably the same as mine. Manchester United is my only concern. I don't care really about who starts. I want Man United to win. That is my concern. So I'm just focused on Manchester United. So if a player plays badly in a Man United shirt, like Bruno did in the second half, then Bruno's going to be spoken about after the game, like he was on this channel, like he was on social media. Bruno, last night, got a lot of stick for having a terrible second half, and he should have been taken off. That's because people want Man United to win and felt that Bruno prevented that from happening. It's a logical criticism. When I look at Rashford, no one's really spoken about him. In fact, he's had a lot of praise. And yet, on the Southampton game, the cameras are never off him. On the Barnsley game, the cameras are never off him. And yesterday, when he's on the bench, the cameras are never off him. I don't have the audio on because obviously I'm streaming, so I can't have the audio on because you would be able to hear it. So all I really get is enhanced visual because I'm just focusing on the visual. I don't get the audio. And I tell you what, every time you look at the screen, the cameras are on Rashford. So who is the real issue here? Is it fans or is it the media who are constantly stirring up the stories? Now, will Marcus Rashford's team call the media out? Probably not, because it's Sky and they've got all the Premier League rights. But they are absolutely making pressure on him go through the bloody roof. And they single-handedly are starting this story that there is an issue between Ten Hag and Rashford. Is Rashford's team going to come out and say, stop spreading false rumours? No, they won't, because it's the mainstream. But they are feeding this. I'm not happy about this morning. I'm genuinely not, because I'm very disappointed that Manchester United drew last night. We didn't lose. But you know what? I'm tired of lazy producers and ex-players finding shitty little angles because their brain can't compute proper football. Like Redknapp last night made some good points about, you can't be out partying, you've got to be professional, you've got to turn up. But Ten Hag wasn't talking about Rashford in that interview. He was talking about general behaviour. Last week he mentioned Anthony and said, you've got to turn up and train as hard as you want to play in the first team. No one was making a big deal out of that because it's Anthony. But he's not actually talking about Rashford. Like, very good sources are saying it's not Rashford he's talking about when he's talking about unprofessional behaviour. Now, it might come out who it is, but apparently it's not Rashford. So, I don't think it would be Rashford. I think there's a change in Rashford this season. I think he's had a good start to the season. He looks mentally better. He's going to be disappointed he got rotated out, but Garnacho would be disappointed if he was on the bench. Would people have been saying, if we'd have drawn yesterday and Garnacho didn't start, would they have been saying it's crazy he's not starting Garnacho, he's the most creative player? Like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But you know what the real important thing is? To talk about drawing being a negative, I get that. Some people want to turn it into a negative. That's absolutely fine. How about the positive? Why is a draw automatically a negative? We went to Palace last year and we got stuffed. We dominated them for 60 minutes. We should have won that game comfortably. Are we going to talk about the positives? Because you know what? Talking about this media again, who's gone very quiet? All the ex-Man United players who were saying not really happy about the signings they've made, quite uninspiring signings, don't understand why we've made those signings. Man United should be signing top-class players. Well, we can't sign top-class players because we're not in the Champions League and we haven't got that amount of money. Don't understand why we're buying these players. Maybe watch United over the last few games, especially last night, and have a look at why we brought these players in. High line, high possession, high chance creation. Stylistically, these signings suit us better than the Hollywood signings we've been making for the last 10 years. But no one will talk about that. Jamie Redknapp doesn't want to talk about that. Jamie Redknapp wants to make up some story in his head, which just, I was watching it back, and if I'm Sky, I'm getting nervous. I'm thinking, Jamie, what are you doing? You are making something up. Well, I don't know, mate, but maybe something off the pitch has gone on. I don't really know, but it's crazy to me. But, maybe something off the pitch has gone out. Maybe it will come out. Maybe it won't come out. What the fuck are you talking about on national TV? Talking out your arse, making stuff up? You can't do that. I can't do that. So why is he doing that? Why is he sat there after a Manchester United match talking about, I don't know. Do you want a pair of my trainers? I don't know what's going on. I don't know. But, there might be something going on. Maybe it will come out. It's crazy to me. Well, no, I was about talking about the bloody game. Talk about the match. Because for all of last year, they talk about United having no style of play. Not creating enough chances. Conceding loads of chances. Disappointing to draw. But surely the job of an impartial analyst on national TV is to analyse the game of football. And we had a lot of people in the summer, Rio, I think Scholes might have said it, maybe Neville said it, I don't know. There were some ex-players who said, Not really sure about De Ligt. Don't know what this De Ligt signing's all about. Well, you know, maybe watch a bit more football, lads, because I think most of our fan base knew why we bought De Ligt, because he's a ball-playing centre-back who can play in a certain system that suits the way we want to play. And everybody knew that, but you lot didn't seem to know that, and everybody's very, very quiet about that. I gave De Ligt man of the match yesterday. You gave it to Onana, that's fine, but I think people are sleeping on the transition of how we're defending. Like, we literally are not on the edge of our box anymore. We're on the halfway line away from home. You know, we're passing it around the back four comfortably, and we're not getting pressed because they know what'll happen. People were moaning about Martinez and De Ligt holding on to the ball last night, but that's because Crystal Palace wouldn't press us. And they wouldn't press us because they were scared that we've got two centre-backs that if they press us, they'll find the spare man and then we're going to get at them. The reason Martinez and De Ligt kept the ball is because Crystal Palace sat in the midfield, closed the passing lanes, and they wanted us to hit it long where they would win it. So we were like, well, we're not hitting it long. We'll keep it. We'll keep the ball. We've changed the way that we're playing because of that De Ligt signing and hopefully Yoro as well. Like, there is a massive change in the way that we're playing this season. Oh, we don't want to talk about that, though. We don't want to talk about that. We want to find a way to derail United. Let's talk about Rashford. Let's talk about Ten Hag. Let's talk about them falling out. It's pitiful. It's absolutely pitiful. We're better than that. We're better than that as a fan base. And I believe we should be better than that as a media. You can't spend Saturday night analysis talking out your arse, making up a theory. Ten Hag said that Rashford wasn't in the team for rotation. Rotation. What right have you on mainstream TV got to pull a theory out your arse that, oh, I think something might have happened? Well, why was Garnacho on the bench then? Has he been out partying? Has he fallen out with Ten Hag? Or maybe, just maybe, Ten Hag looks at someone like Pep Guardiola, who he admires, and goes, I need a squad of 16. I need to be able to rotate. I need 16 players that I can go, you're in the team and you're coming out of the team. You know, maybe, you know, that might sound really out there, I know, but just maybe, Ten Hag is looking at what Pep's doing and gone, well, he sometimes takes Foden out and puts Grealish in. You know, he sometimes changes this. We're playing a game every 3 days. I want to keep people sharp. And also, just maybe he thought, you know what? Rashford's playing really well at the moment, but I don't want him to get too comfortable. You know, I don't want to go back to the days where he thinks he's playing every bloody week. Garnacho's been knocking on the door. I'm going to start Garnacho and I'll bring Rashford on for the last half an hour and see how he reacts to that. And maybe the last couple of days in training, Garnacho's been absolutely shit hot. I mean, the fact that Redknapp and co wouldn't know these sort of things, I find absolutely incredible. I really, really do. But you know what? I think we just need to hold target here. Like, we've got really big games coming up against Spurs and Villa, and that Palace game puts a pressure on to get better results in those games. Ten Hag knows it, you know it, I know it, the players know it. But look, I've had a sleep. I'm still very disappointed, but I'm just parking it and moving on. I think that I would love to have won that game yesterday, but I suppose if you win that game and you play badly, then you get 3 points, but you've played badly. If you draw it and you play well, I still want the 3 points, but there's so many positives to take from that game in the way that we played. And I think we've got a certain element of people that just want to be negative. They want to see the world burn down. They want Ten Hag out, and they're just not going to see what I saw yesterday and many other people see, which was a very good footballing performance for an hour. And then the substitutions, and can I just say, the criticism of the substitutions are hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious. We should have kept Xerxes on for 90 minutes. We should have kept Ahmad on for 90 minutes. We should have kept Eriksen on for 90 minutes. I mean, do you not understand modern football? Like, nobody's doing that anymore. Nobody's not making subs anymore. You have to make subs. The problem was the subs didn't work. Were they the right subs? Were the subs intense when they came on? You know, as I said, when Garnacho's come on in the last couple of games, he's really brought it from the bench. I don't think any of our subs brought it. I thought Agate was okay. Obviously, Rasmus, it's his first game in 2 months. But you've got to make subs. You've got to make subs. And also, you've got to take your chances. I mean, Crystal Palace were never just going to sit there for 90 minutes at Selhurst Park and do nothing. And they had a couple of chances themselves. I'm disappointed with the draw, but if you can't see the improvement in how we're playing, then I can't get into a debate. I mean, you know, we should have won the game. And that's the disappointing thing. But we played really, really well compared to the shit we've seen last season. Sinead says, and look, Sinead makes a great point. Our summer signings are the most impressive part of the team. Recruitment seems like it's improved. I enjoy not knowing who's going to play, says Sinead. I saw a tweet actually from Swedish Rumble actually this morning, and he's absolutely spot on. He basically said that if Pep Guardiola went to Newcastle, would Paul Mitchell, the director of football, say, we know you've got a style of play, Pep, but what we want you to do is get the best out of Dan Burn and Shaw and Longstaff because they're good lads and we're not selling them. Would they bollocks? They would get Pep Guardiola players that can play his brand of football. And when you look at Ten Hag and you look at this season, now he's got Mazraoui, Martinez, De Ligt. I mean, he still hasn't got his left back. But look at United now. He's got 3 of his own back 4 players. And we want to play out from the back. And we want to dominate possession. Isn't it funny how United now have 3 Ten Hag signings in the back 4 and we're playing better football? Why is it over the last 2 years, Ten Hag's had to use Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Rafael Varane, players that he didn't actually sign because the CEO and the director of football have said, we want you to get the best out of these players. It is, it's a great point when you think about it. We're actually starting to play a better brand of football because we're actually starting to give him the players that he wants. And we didn't do that for 2 years. We gave him some. Look, Anthony hasn't worked out. Martinez, Ericsson, Casemiro, but these are 4 or 5 players in a squad of 16, in a starting lineup of 11. It just wouldn't happen to Pep Guardiola. He wouldn't come to Manchester United and be told to work with Maguire and Lindelof. Yet Ten Hag's had to do it for the last 2 years. I think there is a direct correlation between actually putting a structure above a manager, and we all know it. It's not rocket science. You put a structure above a manager who speaks to the manager about how we want to play, and people got this wrong. They're like, Jason Wilcox is going to dictate the way we're going to play. He's not going to dictate the way we're going to play because he's not coaching the team and he can't buy a whole team. So what Wilcox will do is he will sit with Ten Hag and go, this is the plan of how we're going to play collectively. What players do we want? Dan Ashworth's part of that. Barada's part of that. We're finally seeing that type of a recruitment and we're seeing better football. I think it's, there's not a lot we can do about it, but I think the way that we're playing this season is fundamentally, stylistically better because we have brought De Ligt in and we have brought Mazraoui in. And it's allowed us to have players that will play the way we want to play. Hopefully it can continue. We put ourselves on a knife edge with that draw yesterday, I'm not going to lie. Rudzi, you're blocked. Homophobe. I mean, it's Toxic Sunday. So basically Rudzi has said, why don't you go and shag Ten Hag, but said it in a homophobic way. I mean, it's just weird. Some people will wake up on a Sunday morning full of anger and hate because their own life is shit. It's Toxic Sunday. Robert McCormack says, let's judge how we play against Spurs and Villa. Absolutely, exactly, mate. Absolutely, exactly. That's why I said, we have lost 2 of our first 5 games. We didn't beat Palace, we drew. This adds pressure. It does add pressure. There is no doubt about it. The players will be disappointed. But what I'm saying is that why would you load pressure onto your own team? What benefit does it do for you for us to lose to Spurs and Villa? And why do you let a toxic media pile on? At what point does this siege mentality within this fan base really start to kick in? At what point do you say enough is enough now? We did play well last night. We should have scored, but we will own that as fans because I wake up this morning and go, very disappointed with the draw. We should have won. But if we got one of those goals, we win the game. And I'm sat here in a very happy mood going, this is progress. So take that goal away, 0-0. Is it still progress? Of course it is. The style of football is still progress. The result is disappointing. So why would you move away from the results and start focusing on Rashford and Ten Hag? Why would you start focusing on some of the external bullshit that people are trying to pile on to pile pressure onto our football club because they make money out of it? They make money out of it. The call-ins, the bullshit, the stories. They're doing it because we didn't lose. They haven't got an open goal story to pile in on Man United. So let's create a story. Manager said Rashford's been rotated. Rashford comes on for the last half an hour. That's not enough. Let's make up a story about he shouldn't have been dropped and there must have been something that's gone on. It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. I wouldn't get away with it. You wouldn't get away with it. So why are they allowed to get away with it? And ultimately, forget Ten Hag, forget Rashford. If yesterday's performance is a sign of things to come, why would you let somebody, you know, if something you love is on a tightrope and they're halfway along and they're doing really well and you think they're going to make it to the other side and someone starts trying to push them off, are you going to stand back and go, that's all right? Or are you going to go, get off them, leave them alone? And that's how I feel this morning. I'm like, just fucking leave them alone. Let them get on with what they're doing. Stop trying to push them off. You're not United fans. You're scum. Leave them alone. Let them walk the walk. And if they fall off of their own accord, we will be there and we will be wrong and we will have to make changes. But they're just trying to derail us. That's literally what they're trying to do. They're trying to find angles all the time to derail us. Let's get into Rashford's head. Let's get into Garnacho's head. Let's get into Ten Hag's head. Let's try and derail Manchester United. And it's every fucking year. Every year. And look, I'm not going to lie. I've criticised players. I've criticised managers. But at the moment, I don't feel like doing it. It just feels lazy, reactionary, you know, scripted. And there are people out there doing it, and I think it's scripted. I think it's scripted within the fan base to be there going, sack this manager, this player's shit. I just don't see it. I genuinely have no passion to start talking about replacing the manager or sacking this player or selling that player. I think we've got a squad. We go with the squad. We go with this manager until it fails. And I think there's a real chance that it can succeed, but it's not going to succeed if every time we don't win a game, there has to be a drama about it. I see no correlation between Rashford being on the bench and Garnacho being on the bench. I literally think it was a flip of the coin. I did think he would go with Rashford. I did say this. I was very surprised. I mean, to be honest, Ten Hag threw a curveball. And I don't know whether he did it deliberately, but when he kept Eriksen and Garnacho on against Barnsley until late in the game, and he took Rashford and Ugarte off after an hour, I was like, well, that's Rashford and Ugarte starting. He's given them an hour so that they're fresh for the Palace game. And then both of them are on the bench and Eriksen and Garnacho starts. Now, maybe that was a deliberate curveball. Maybe he's aware that fans know how he works and he's thinking, well, Glasner knows how I work, so I'm going to change it. But that's down to the manager. The manager must manage. Simple as that. Even though it's frustrating, being top of the missed chances table is better than bottom for chances created, says McCall. I mean, look, we've got to put the ball in the back of the net. If there's one thing about Xerxes, he wasn't that prolific at Bologna. If there's one thing about Rasmus, you know, he wasn't as prolific as he could have been last season, but then again, the chances weren't there. The chances are there now. We've got to start putting those chances away in the Premier League because we can't go from one problem to another. We can't go from a good defence to creating chances and not putting in the back of the net. But look, I'd rather have that problem than the problem we've had for the last 12 months. All right, Mark, don't want to be far right, but the mainstream media are just pony, mate, says Tumbleweed. It's just the way we get treated over everybody else. And I heard somebody saying, well, Arteta wouldn't do this with Saka. What's that got to do with the price of bread? You know, you might do something with your missus that I don't. Like, what's that got to do with anything? Saka wouldn't get treated like this by Arsenal. And yet, I listen to Arsenal fans saying, Arteta doesn't rotate enough. Arteta never gives Saka a rest. So, and also, Arteta doesn't have a right winger that's nearly as good as Saka. We've got Garnacho and Rashford where, well, let's run a poll now. Who would you start against Spurs? You know, we've got 10,000 people watching and there'll be a load of people watching later who can get in the comments. Who would, you know, this is a message to the mainstream. Who would you start against Spurs? Not 20, because that's, you know, that's what it is. But, you know, here's your message to the mainstream, right? If it's so obvious that Rashford should start every single game because he's like our Saka, you tell me in the chat who should start against Spurs, Garnacho or Rashford, right? I guarantee it's not going to be 90% for either of them because it's a decision to be made. And if I'm me, I'm sat in a room, if I could, with Rashford and Garnacho, and I'm saying, you're both playing really, really well at the moment. But you're not right wingers, you're not number 10s, and you're not strikers. You're both left wingers. And you're playing really, really well. But guess what? at the moment, neither of you are my starting left winger because you're both playing too well and you both offer different things. So there will be games where you start and there will be games where you come on, and there'll be games when you start and there'll be games when you come on. Now, if you're going to get moody because you want to start every week, you're at the wrong club. Go and play for Everton because they'll start you every week because you'll be their star player. But at Manchester United, you're both playing really, really well. I want to see that mentality week in, week out. I will pick who starts, but I respect both of you. You're both doing really, really well. It's not about being dropped. It's about being rotated. Now, crack on. Keep doing what you're doing, because in a couple of weeks, you might be injured and you're playing every week. Or in a couple of weeks, you might be playing really badly and you're playing every week. So that's what we've got here. That's what we've got. We haven't got Arteta, who doesn't rotate much, playing Saka every week because it's his best player. And it's that bullshit, because when I heard somebody say, well, Arteta wouldn't have done this with Saka. He wouldn't have scored 3 goals in the last 2 and then put him on the bench for the next game. Well, Rashford's not Saka. We've got Garnacho and Rashford, who are very, very good players at the moment. And rotation is absolutely fine. And hold on a minute, Pep would do that. Foden might have scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. He's not guaranteed to start at the weekend because he might rotate and put Bernardo Silva in the team or Doku in the team. So it's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. On the one hand, we talk about wanting a squad. We want a squad. We want a squad so that we can rotate. We want a big squad. So we get that. And then Rashford doesn't start. Oh, what's going on? Why isn't Rashford starting every minute of every game? And that's coming from the media. I mean, there are some United fans saying, but that's coming from the media. It's hypocrisy. It's absolute hypocrisy. Absolute hypocrisy. And on the one hand, you've got, I don't understand these signings United are making. Very lacklustre. We should be buying better players than this. I don't see it working. I don't see it working. Mazraoui and De Ligt come in. Defence is a lot better and we're playing out from the back. Radio silence. The criticism's there. They need to do this. They need... Mate, I listen to Jamie. I listen to fucking Redknapp. I listen to these ex-players, and last season all they were saying is United haven't got a big enough squad. They're conceding too many chances. They don't create chances. They're crap on the ball. They've got no style of play. Where are we now? We've got a squad. We're playing out from the back. We've got high possession. We're creating lots of chances. We're not conceding many goals. Let's fight. Wow. Rashford and Ten Hag look like they might have fallen out. I mean, there's no evidence for it. Neither of them look like they've fallen out, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe something has happened. And you sort of like just go, shut up and bother with somebody else, because we know we're shit. Where we should be, we aren't there. Man United fans already know we're shit. Just fuck off and leave us alone. Like, we already know we've got a mountain to climb. When we're starting to climb the mountain, stop pulling us back. Man City are at the top of the mountain. Arsenal are at the top of the mountain. Liverpool are close to the top of the mountain. Go and pick on them. Leave us alone, because we've got a lot of work to do. And I will take those baby steps forward that I'm seeing, because we're right at the bottom of the mountain. And they just want to derail us all the time. And look, you know, with regards to... And look, this wasn't said yesterday. Whether Garnacho starts the game or Rashford starts the game, Garnacho came on against Southampton, got a man sent off and scored a goal. 20 minutes, half an hour, you've got enough time in the modern game. Rashford came on, didn't get a look in. Now, is that on Rashford? Is that on United? I think Palace swamped the midfield in the last half an hour. There wasn't enough space. I think Rashford would have, you know, been a decent player in the first half, but we went with Garnacho. Against Spurs, it might be Rashford who scores. I mean, I watched that Spurs game against Brentford. Brentford had some bloody good chances. Very good chances indeed. And that was at Spurs. So I think, you know, and you look at Wolves against Villa, the chances are there. Like, I'm not giving up on this. I think there is a real chance that if we can keep our confidence up and keep our focus up, we can give Spurs and Villa a good game and get to that international break and sort of, you know, assess like we want to assess. We could lose both and we're talking about Ten Hag out again, but I don't think we're in that position at the moment. Tumbleweed, thanks for being a member for 23 months. Ripper says, I don't remember the last time I watched Bruno play and thought that's the captain of my club. I could be wrong. He works hard, but I don't see that passionate leadership and grit. Just wanted your thoughts, Mark. Thank you very much for your super chat. Get your comments in. I'm going to go through some of yours now. Look, I'm not here to dictate an opinion. I'm not here to disagree with what you're saying. as Robert says, we've got to play well against Villa and Spurs. We have. I can't sit here in a week's time if Spurs beat us at Old Trafford and go, remember the 0-0 against Palace though, we could have won that. Remember the Brighton game, we played well and Casemiro fucked it up. Ultimately, we've taken 1 point from Palace and Brighton away. We should have took at least 4. So points keep you in a job. That's what it's all about. I absolutely accept that. Criticism is absolutely fair. I just don't think unfair criticism is right, and I don't think speculative criticism is right, which is purposely done to try and derail us. We know there are journalists around Man United that will be desperately digging this morning to try and find a slither of something that they can say about Rashford and Ten Hag. They'll be desperately trying to do it. And that started because of Redknapp last night, and now they'll all be desperately digging. Now, I've been told it's got nothing to do with Rashford. What Ten Hag was talking about with professionalism has got nothing to do with Rashford. It might have been last season, and even if Ten Hag did say it about Rashford, he's not wrong. Because I think there's a different Rashford this season to last season, and you do need to be professional. But apparently it's not to do with him, it's to do with another player, and it may well come out in the next few days. I don't know who that is at the moment. All I've been told is it's not Rashford. So it's pointless speculating because I think that's wrong. But to try and derail things on false speculative stories is not fair. Ripper is talking about something factual. I've not changed my opinion having had a night's sleep. Sometimes I do. I'm sure you're the same. You're frustrated. You go to bed, you wake up, and tomorrow's another day, and you're like, I feel different. I don't feel different about Bruno. I thought the second half, this is Manchester United. Criticism is absolutely spot on when it's based on fact. And fact is your opinion. So my opinion is that we've got Mason Mount on the bench. We've got Rasmus on the bench. They're both fit. Rasmus comes on for 20 minutes. Which means Mount can play 20 minutes. Bruno, from 55 minutes, fell apart. He had a 5-minute period where he couldn't pass a parcel, and yet he plays 90 minutes. And we've seen this before. It's been a calm, measured statement from many United fans for a very long time. Now, Ricky messaged me last night, and he said, Bruno can't play that system. And I said, based on last night, I agree with you, Ricky. Bruno is brilliant in a counter-attacking team. He is. Fast-paced, don't have time to think, bang. When it slows down and it's possession, he makes mistakes. He wasn't making 10-yard passes when you can see a pass. It was careless, it was inconsistent, and you can't have that. And that's why I always wax lyrical about people like Odegaard, and I call him a magnetic number 10. I tell you who would have been a magnetic number 10. I tell you who'd work brilliant in a United system now. Mata at 27. Put Mata in Bruno's role at 27. That's exactly what you need. Magnetic touch, pass. You know what Mata understood? Possession is the game. If I've got the ball, they haven't got the ball. They can't score without the ball. If we've got the ball, that's how you score. And that was Mata's thing. Bruno's thing is, where's the pass? Where's the pass right now? Where's the shot or the pass? Where's the killer pass right now? He's chaotic, and that's what he was yesterday. And you know what? Actually, I don't want to be critical of Ten Hag, but this is where I would agree. This one thing. I can't criticise Ten Hag for anything. And remember, Eriksen was the trapdoor. I knew it, you knew it, everybody knew it. When the team news came out yesterday, my tweet was stunned, and that is brave. What I meant by that is, if that goes wrong, that's the trapdoor for Ten Hag. If we get beat 3-0 because the midfield gets dominated, Ten Hag has done himself over big time. He was right to play Eriksen. You won't get many people acknowledging that, but the Eriksen selection was absolutely spot on. He won't get any credit for it, and he should do. It was a spot. It wasn't Eriksen's fault we didn't win the game. Eriksen didn't have a shot. So Eriksen's selection was spot on. Keeping Bruno on for the last 20 minutes for me was wrong. And I think as well, when Palace in the last 20 minutes compacted their midfield, that made it even more important to have somebody in the 10 who was patient on the ball because there was less space and they were playing deeper. So Bruno, with less space and a team playing deeper, is never going to find that Hollywood pass. You know, that ball over the top or whatever. He's never going to find it. So I think a lot of people would agree with this statement, and I have to say I agree with it as well. We saw it a lot last year. Bruno seems to be a player that never gets subbed. And That needs to change because he's not Mr. Manchester United. He's not Brian Robson. You know, he's not Eric Cantona. He's not Cristiano Ronaldo. He's not Wayne Rooney. He's a very good player, but he's not legendary status. There is no justification for keeping Bruno Fernandes on for 90 minutes. And when you've got a ready-made replacement in Mason Mount, he should have made that change. And as I said yesterday, if you're Mason Mount and you're sat there watching, you're going, I've got back from injury, please God stay fit. But then your head's going negative again, going, where am I going to get on this pitch? Like he's already got 4 wingers, he's got 2 strikers, he's got loads of midfielders. My best position is 10, and he won't even put me on when the 10's playing shit. So that to me is favouritism, nepotism, and it's going to cause us problems. Now, look, I don't necessarily think Mount coming on wins us the game. I don't necessarily think taking Bruno off makes a 0-0 a 1-0. But it didn't make a 0-0 a 1-0 keeping him on, did it? So for me, the change should have happened. So I agree with you, Ripper. It should happen. But also, I have to say that Ten Hag's not the first manager in the world to have favourites that he won't take off. It's about having the right one, isn't it? Interestingly, on the poll, who would you start against Spurs, Garnacho or Rashford? 70% are saying Garnacho. So I think it's more 50-50, if I'm being honest. Personally, I really like Garnacho, and he could have had a couple of goals yesterday, but I don't think Rashford. What we can't have is, we can't have ego at this football club. I think Garnacho has handled being on the bench brilliantly, and he comes on with a point to prove. It's almost an insult. And I think when Rashford came on yesterday, I don't know whether he's the sort of player that can deal with that. I think he wants to start. He's got to learn to take it as an insult and prove from the bench, because we can't. I don't think Rashford's good enough that we start him every week. I think he will start, but I think he's got to be able to come off the bench and make an impact. And yesterday, it's unfair to judge him on that half an hour because Palace changed tactically, but he didn't look like when Garnacho comes on. He didn't look like he was, I'm going to prove a point here. He looked a little bit, didn't look like he did for the last 2 games. And that's not Ten Hag's responsibility. And that's not our responsibility. That's his responsibility. Not every player starts for Man United every single game. And if you don't start, you've got to prove yourself from the bench. And Garnacho's been very good at that this season. So I think Rashford, if he's going to be on the bench against Spurs or whenever else, when he comes on, he's got to grab that opportunity. And you know, it would be such a shame if he dropped off again. Robert says, this live chat is in the main is a bunch of Rashford haters. He's our best player. He got dropped yesterday and we didn't score. He ain't going anywhere. Yeah, but Robert, I'm very surprised at you, Robert, because that just sounds completely the other way. You know, I always thought you were quite level-headed. So you've just called the live chat a bunch of Rashford haters, and then you've classed yourself as Rashford FC. I don't think that moves the conversation forward. What I would have said is there's a lot of people who are unfairly hating on Rashford in this chat. I personally think he's one of our best players, and I would have started him yesterday. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that, but yours is just a little bit. You know, I don't think you ever win an argument when you label a load of people one thing and then you categorically say you're like toxic positivity and toxic negativity. I think you got to be more in the middle. Mark, I have a theory that Ineos will go all out for Europa League and the sacking of Ten Hag won't be on the league solely as we're still building, says Alex. Look, the Europa League starts this week. Alex, I look at that Europa League and funnily enough, I think Spurs and us are the favourites on paper. I also think that I don't think Spurs look like a bad side, and I'm really looking forward to that game next weekend against Spurs. But look, we've got to move on from last night. I find it difficult, and I don't know how you feel, but I just feel that from last night, I'm going to take the positives. Because if I take the negatives, it doesn't feel right. I'm going to take the positives. I'm going to defend the team. I'm going to defend the players. And I'm going to go, look, we need to keep this unity. And the only unity that matters that I was brought up on is a siege mentality, which Ten Hag always, which Sir Alex Ferguson always said. Media have always hated United. It's nothing new. For the younger lot, I think you listen to the media too much. We didn't used to listen to them. In the noughties, we wouldn't listen to them. Like we always knew, hated, adored, but never ignored. And the press hated us. They hated us. And Sir Alex was very clever in making a siege mentality. And in fairness, I don't think Ten Hag's not doing that. You know, he had a pop at Shearer 2 weeks ago. He called Redknapp out last night and said he's talking ridiculous stuff about a fallout when it was rotation. But obviously it's easier to create a siege mentality when you've got a manager that can win everything. But we need to build that siege mentality because this is nothing new from the media. They've always tried to derail Manchester United. So I choose to be more positive. I think that, look, if we lose against Spurs next week, there'll be plenty of reasons to be negative. But I think that a draw against Crystal Palace isn't ideal, but we've got no divine rights to demand that we win at Selhurst Park. It's not a given that we're going to do that. I don't know how many times we've won at Selhurst Park in the last 10 years, in fact. So I'll take the positives until the negatives bite me on the face, I suppose. And if we beat Spurs next week and we beat Aston Villa, then that point won't even matter. That point's not going to be a bad point, is what I'm trying to say. That point against Palace is not a bad point if you surround it with victories. It's a bad point if you go and draw again or you lose. So I'm just going to choose to take the positives. And the positives for me, I can't lie to myself when the tweets are there. I said in the first half, what a start. How haven't we scored? High possession, high defensive line, high chance creation. They're probably the three things fundamentally I want. I want a high defensive line, I want high possession, and I want high chances. Can't really argue with 60 minutes of United yesterday. And also, at this level, the opposition away from home, when you're away from home, are always going to have chances. They're always going to have chances. I watched Brentford Spurs. Spurs win 3-1. If you haven't watched it, you're probably thinking, easy home win. Bollocks. Vicario should have had... I don't know whether you can get sent off for what Vicario did, but Brentford had two really good chances as well. So you're always going to gift chances. Robert says, I hope he doesn't drop Rashford again when it matters. Robert's woke up in a Rashford FC shirt. I don't know what's wrong with Robert this morning. I think rotation is absolutely fine. What you're saying, Robert, is you just want Rashford to be picked every game, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with Garnacho being picked every game. I don't agree with Xerxes being picked every game. I don't agree with Bruno being picked every game. I don't see the point in having this 16, 17-man squad of people like Dalot and Mazraoui, Yoro, De Ligt, Martinez, Agate, Casemiro, Mainu, Eriksen, Mount, Bruno, Xerxes, Rasmus, Rashford, Garnacho, Ahmad. You've got all these players. They can't all start. I want to see rotation. We beat Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea in his first year to finish top four. I don't see that happening again if we can't beat the smaller teams, says Sanil. Rome wasn't built in a day, Sanil. We should have won yesterday, but I choose to take the positives. The result yesterday was disappointing, but people wanted us to control games and a style of play. We did that yesterday and people complained. Do we really know as a fan base what we want? No, I don't think some people do, Patrick, and I think that is a great point. I think people see negativity in anything as much as some people are overly positive. I choose to see the positive yesterday because I was very impressed with how we played. And the last thing I want is for this team to drop its heads. Hopefully, on Wednesday night, we play well again, we build the confidence up again, and then we bring them back to Old Trafford and we win against Spurs. I know times were different, but do you think his brand and media hype would have got Rashford sold if he played in the Sir Alex era, says Ross? Rashford wouldn't get picked for Sir Alex. Simple as that. He wouldn't be good enough. There's no player in the current team that really would be in a Sir Alex Ferguson decent side. I think he'd value Garnacho and Ahmad because they're young wingers, and he always did that. But I think Rashford at 26 would be on the bench for a Sir Alex Ferguson side, as would Bruno, to be honest. There's not many people in this current United side that would start in a Sir Alex Ferguson side that won a title. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're always centre of attention. It's frustration why we get targeted by the media, says Ewan. Eric Ten Hag still can't get in-game management and subs right, says United 1. It's literal facts that Sancho is better than Rashford. Let's not pretend that Sancho is not better, says Sheep. Mate, did you actually watch Chelsea yesterday? Because people claiming that as an assist for Sancho. I mean, he gives it to Jackson, who runs 40 yards and slips it in the front post. I don't think Sancho is factually better than Marcus Rashford. I think that's a strong statement. Sean Turner says, I agree with the back line, but he also has 2 strikers that he wanted that I'm going to guess won't get 20 goals between them in the league. I think it's unfair. Rasmus hasn't really started yet. Bruno's form is hindering this team. Be brave, Ten Hag, says it's dead. Andrew Ebanks, welcome to the Members Club. Objectivity is vital for improvement, not play blind, says United 1. We just need to put the ball behind the net. That's it. For example, keep it simple. That Bruno outside foot finish was absolutely not required. Mate, Ankit, that pissed me off out of any... You know the one where Garnacho hits the bar? I can understand that. He hits it well. He hits the bar. There's a couple of chances that, you know, De Ligt's header, you want to score. Bruno's chance is not easy. It's just how he hits it. If he hits it with his laces and he hits the post or the keeper saves it, I'm not bothered. But why does he use the outside of his foot? What? I know in training, he probably puts that in the back of the net. And to be fair, Nicholas Jackson did it with his second goal yesterday. But just put your fucking laces through it. It's 0-0. Don't, you know, when you're 2-0 up or 1-0 up, try outside of the foot. But just fucking put your laces through it. It's... Bruno's finishing for the last year hasn't been as good as it was in his first year. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. But, you know, Andrew Ebanks, welcome to the Members Club. But look, I'll say this because there's a video on the channel. I think I did it... I'm going to go and find it, actually. I did a video in March. You know, I did the video about Onana and we did one about Anthony, sort of analysing them as players and whether they're ultimately going to be good enough for United. And look, let's not forget Onana in the last 2 weeks, penalty save and that double save, massive. So he deserves his flowers, 100%. But, you know, long term, do I think he's still got deficiencies? Hopefully not, but I still think they stand. But we're talking Bruno here. I did a video on Bruno in March talking about, is he the right number 10 to play in a team we want to build? Because I know, like you know, I know that what we're seeing now is what Ten Hag has always wanted to do. Whether it's going to work and whether we can build from it, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there is a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to criticise Bruno in the way that he's playing at the moment. But where I think a line is crossed is where people are starting saying he's shit, he's useless, let's get rid of him. Because that's not going to happen. The way I look at Bruno at the moment is he the right player for this system? Yes, he can do it, but he needs a bloody good shouting at, really. He needs... I hope there is somebody that can take him aside and say, you're not doing your job properly. I don't know how much power he's got in the dressing room. I don't know what Bruno's like. Have we got somebody that can do that? Because I'll tell you for free, it's a very good conversation at the moment that if you took Bruno out and you put James Maddison in, would we be a better team? It's easy for me to say Odegaard, but what if you swapped Bruno with James Maddison? Now, Bruno's better than James Maddison, but I'm talking about style. Maddison gets the ball, is quite magnetic, and plays the ball. Bruno is not magnetic and doesn't always play the right pass. And sometimes you can have Look, Cristiano Ronaldo is better than a lot of strikers, but is he the right team for certain systems? No, he's not. He works in some systems, doesn't work in others. I think with Bruno, we know he works in a counter-attacking team. He's proved it for years. But does he work in a possession-based team where you've got to be patient? And that is a question of which we need the answer. And yesterday, the answer was no. So I think if you took a number 10, look, I'm going to use Odegaard in this one. If you put Odegaard where Bruno is yesterday, I think we win that game. Because I just think he'd look after the ball and probe. He'd be like, give me the ball. Okay, that pass isn't on. You have it. Now give it me. Probe. All Odegaard and De Bruyne, all they want to do is keep probing until the opportunities come. Bruno's not that type of number 10. And we need that type of number 10 the way we're playing at the moment. We definitely do. And that's why Xerxes works quite well, because he's willing to put in the hard yards for everybody else. But yeah, look, I still think Bruno's, obviously he's just signed a new contract. He's the captain of the team. He's not about to be sold. I think he's a very, very important player for us. But I can't sit here and lie and say that the second half yesterday was bordering on atrocious, and he should have been taken off, and somebody should be taking him aside and showing him, look, it's not my job But if I was at Carrington tomorrow, if I was Ten Hag, I'd just do it 1-to-1. I'd take him into the cinema room. I'd play the second half. In fact, I'd have all the clips so we don't have to watch 45 minutes. I'd play every single one of his bad passes and I'd play every one of his good passes. And I'd say, right, Bruno, we're going to watch the second half. In this situation, why are you passing that ball with the outside of your foot? It's a simple pass to Eriksen. You try and do it with the outside of your foot. We give possession away. What's important is possession, Bruno. You've got to make that pass. It's unacceptable. In this situation, why are you misplacing this pass? Why are you trying that pass? That's what he needs to be told. And I would say to him, look, you're my captain. You're my most important player in that sense. But if you put in a performance like that again, I will have to take you off. Because what I want is possession. What I want is to probe. And what I want is to win games. And if we're giving the ball away through sloppiness like that, then I can't have you on the pitch. But I don't know whether we're going to do that. Because as we know in the history of football, some managers don't sub certain players and keep them on. Bruno is capable of doing it. It's almost a rewiring of his brain because Bruno's been in a United side for years where I know what Bruno is. He's even said it himself. I'm a risk taker. I'm not going to stop taking risky passes, but risk-taking passes in a team that's trying to be more structured doesn't go together, does it? It's as bad as playing a slow defender in a high line. It doesn't work. So it's a proper grown-up conversation, and it's one that we've been discussing for probably 8 months. Can Bruno Fernandes play in a patient, possession-based side in the final third? Well, based on the second half yesterday, no. Based on the first half, yes. So it's sort of like, how do we solve that? Bruno's form is hindering this team. Be brave, Ten Hag, says it's dead. I don't think it's a droppable thing. I think it's an education thing. Anyway, look, thanks everybody this morning. Don't forget, I'm on That's Football tonight, this afternoon. It's Manchester City against Arsenal. And we are back tonight with the 8 o'clock show as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day. It's pissing it down with rain here. I've got to go and watch Seb play football now, which is never a chore, but I think it should have been called off. It's been raining since 8 o'clock. Take care, everyone. Speak to you all in a bit. Try and smile. Don't be toxic on a Sunday, and I'll speak to you all in a bit.